Hello everyone, and welcome to our astronomy channel. Today we're going to run a fascinating and completely ridiculous experiment. What if we added a little water to Mars? Well, not just a glass of water or even a swimming pool. We're talking about something far bigger. In this video we're going to imagine what would happen if a gigantic sphere of water, as large as Earth itself, collided directly with Mars. Yes, an enormous ball of water with enough mass to turn this idea into one of the most extreme collisions the solar system could ever witness. And that raises some wild questions. Would Mars survive? Would the water spread across the surface? Would it freeze, evaporate, or instantly turn into superheated vapor? Or would the planet be devastated long before any Martian ocean had the chance to form? This is not just a splash. This is planetary chaos. Today, we'll explore the physics behind this scenario step by step, from the energy of the impact to the fate of the water, and what would actually remain of the red planet after such an absurd event. Because one thing is certain, this would not end with a few puddles and a rainbow over Mars. Mars would be having a very, very bad day. Well, our giant sphere of water is now in place, right next to Mars with the same diameter as Earth. And from this point on, things can only go wrong. This is not a gentle delivery of water to the red planet. This is a planet-sized mass about to crash into another world under the force of gravity. The moment it starts falling, the collision becomes inevitable, and the energy released will be beyond catastrophic. So now let's see what happens next. Well, this is more or less what we expected. Since the water sphere has the same diameter as Earth, Mars would have absolutely no chance of surviving the collision. The red planet would not simply be flooded, it would be completely overwhelmed, swallowed and violently destroyed by the impact. At this scale, we are no longer talking about bringing water to Mars. We are talking about a planet-sized mass of water crashing into an entire world. And the result would be catastrophic beyond imagination. The instant the collision happened, an enormous amount of energy would be released. Much of the water and the Martian surface would be superheated almost immediately. Rock would melt, water would flash into vapor, and huge amounts of Martian debris would be blasted into space. Some of those fragments would fall back, while others could remain in orbit or travel far away from the planet. Mars would not be getting an ocean, it would be getting deleted. After the impact, the neat shape of the water sphere would be gone. Instead, what remained would likely be a chaotic mix of superheated vapor, compressed water, shattered rock, molten material and debris surrounding the wreckage. It would not look like a new blue world. It would look like the aftermath of a cosmic catastrophe. And even after many years, this new object would still have virtually no chance of supporting life. Water alone is not enough. Life also needs stability, moderate conditions, a lasting atmosphere, and a long period of relative calm. This scenario would offer none of that. That simulation was pretty disturbing, wasn't it? Watching Mars get completely swallowed by a water sphere the size of Earth is definitely not the kind of thing you casually forget. So now, let's try something a little less apocalyptic. What if, instead of using a water sphere as large as Earth, we scaled things down to something much smaller, maybe something the size of the Moon? This time, we'll take our base planet, turn its entire composition into pure water, and compress it until it has the same diameter as our Moon. In other words, we're still dealing with an enormous amount of water, but now in a much smaller package. That means the impact would still be dramatic, but very different from the total annihilation we just saw. Mars might not be erased this time, but it certainly would not enjoy the experience. So yes, we're downgrading from planetary murder to regional cosmic disaster. Now the real question is, would a moon-sized ball of water create a giant ocean on Mars? Would it explode into vapor? Would part of it freeze, escape, or spread across the planet? Well, there's only one way to find out. Ready? All right, our moon-sized ball of water is now on a collision course with the red planet. So the big question is, would Mars survive this time? In this scenario, yes, Mars would survive. Unlike the Earth-sized water sphere, this impact would not completely erase the planet. It would still be catastrophic, of course, but not enough to destroy Mars altogether. The collision would release an enormous amount of energy, sending shockwaves across the planet, blasting debris into the sky, and instantly turning a significant portion of the water into superheated vapor. But even so, a huge amount of water would still spread across the Martian surface. For a while, Mars would look dramatically different. Vast regions of the planet could be covered by water. Thick clouds of steam could form in the atmosphere, and the entire world might begin to look less like a frozen desert and more like a chaotic, flooded version of itself. So, would that finally make Mars habitable? Not really, because water alone is not enough to create life, or even to sustain it. Mars still has an atmosphere that is far too thin, far too cold, and far too unstable to keep liquid water comfortably on the surface for long. Under present Martian conditions, surface water is generally not stable and tends to freeze or evaporate quickly. Mars also lacks a strong global magnetic field, which means the planet is poorly protected from solar radiation, and its atmosphere can continue to be stripped away over time. And life needs much more than just water. It needs long-term stability, a protective environment, the right chemistry, manageable temperatures, and enough atmospheric pressure for complex processes to happen over very long periods of time. Even if this impact gave Mars oceans, lakes, storms, and clouds, it still would not magically turn the planet into a second Earth. So in the end, Mars would survive this collision, but life probably still would not. The planet might become wetter, more violent, and visually spectacular for a time, but not truly alive. Mars would go from red to wet, but not to welcoming. If you enjoyed this simulation and want to see more absurd cosmic experiments like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and tell us in the comments, what should we throw at Mars next?